Hello and welcome to the Final Lap Weekend Preview Show. This is Josh, and we have a full weekend of racing, F1 and NASCAR to preview for you guys today. Let's start with F1, which is back for its third race of the season after a one-week break in the action for the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. Weather could be a factor here for the second race this year, as a 41% chance of rain come race time on Sunday has the possibility of throwing this race into complete chaos. But with most of the rain expected to come before noontime at the circuit, it appears at the moment that the race should be mostly dry, with the possibility of slightly damp conditions at the start of the race. With this being Yuki's long-awaited Red Bull debut coming at his home track in front of his home fans at Suzuka, the storylines are really writing themselves this weekend. Now let's get to our one sure bet for the weekend in F1, which is Lando Norris to win at plus 125. I know this is not necessarily a sure thing, given the fact that he was beaten by his teammate Oscar Piastri last time out in China. However, I do believe the winner will come from one of the two McLaren drivers here, and my chips are going to back Norris, just given his history here. Since Oscar joined the team, Lando has gotten the better of his teammate in both the Grand Prix in China. With history favoring Norris here and the McLaren driver almost sure to win on Sunday, barring some major surprise, I think Norris is as good a bet as any this weekend. My one outside bet for Japan is Carlos Sainz to top 10 at plus 105. I like getting Carlos Sainz at plus odds here. Sainz finished ahead of his teammate in both FP1 and FP2 and in the top 10 as well to start the weekend at Suzuka. I know it was a different car last year as well, but he did podium for Ferrari at Suzuka the season prior, showing he does have pace around this track. If he can manage to keep this pace up throughout the weekend, I think we may be looking at Sainz's first real points in F1 with Williams after he was promoted to the points last week with the 3 DSQs ahead of him. And last up in F1, we have George Russell to podium at plus 125 and Kimi Antonelli to finish top 6 at plus 175. This is a bet that is mostly backed by Mercedes, largely outperforming expectations so far this year. Of any team outside McLaren, I think Mercedes has looked the most confident and in control so far in 2025. George Russell has finished on the podium in both races this season, and Kimi Antonelli has yet to finish outside the top 6 in his young Formula One career. I'm expecting more of the same from Mercedes and their two drivers this week, especially at a track where you need a stable and predictable car like Suzuka, and that's what Mercedes seemed to have so far this year. Now we head to NASCAR at Darlington for Throwback Weekend with some great and some not so great throwback schemes in what promises to be one of the best weekends of the year. And just as a reminder for some context heading into the weekend, Brad Keselowski won the spring race here, ending his drought a year ago, and last year's fall winner was Chase Briscoe in that great win that got him into the playoffs for SHR in their final season. My one sure bet for Darlington is Christopher Bell to finish top 10 at minus 160. This is a very safe bet and one that doesn't have much return. However, it's actually good value when you compare him to some of the other drivers for a top 10 finish. Bell has been the star performer so far in 2025 with 3 wins, and he's coming off a second-place finish to his teammate at Martinsville a week ago. To go with that, Bell has tied for the second best average finish at Darlington in the last 3 years at 10.7. With this momentum and a good history at this track, I think Bell top 10, even at those odds, is not a terrible pick. My one outside bet for the weekend at Darlington is Brad Keselowski to top 5 at plus 400. I like Brad K to have his best finish of the 2025 season at Darlington. You know, so far it's been a struggle for him, for the veteran this year, with finishes of 26th, 39th, 15th, 33rd, 11th, 26th, and 26th again last week at Martinsville. However, we are heading to a track where Keselowski broke his winless drought a year ago and where he has been one of the best drivers for the last 3 years. With an average finish of 11th and 2 top 5s here in the last 6 races, this is the perfect place for Keselowski to turn his season around with a great finish. And last up here, we have the Kyle Larson special. Larson to win at plus 450. Similar to Homestead, where he won 2 weeks ago, Larson is the best on the tracks where you really have to ride against the wall. That's the best way to extract a good lap time. Also similar to Homestead, Larson seems to be checkers or wreckers on tracks like this. With 1 win in his last 6 races here, and the most laps led of anyone in that time at 392, Larson has the history to show he is arguably the best driver at Darlington. However, his average finishing position of 17.8, juxtaposed to his average starting position of 7.3, tells me that it makes more sense to pick him as a winner rather than a safer top 3, 5, or 10 play. If he's up there, he's probably going to win or crash out trying. And that wraps up our weekend preview. It should be an exciting weekend of F1 and NASCAR ahead. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.